Constitution outlined how accounting practices of common discussion did not.
What kind of likeness is that?
If they were great artists, they'll be in a museum.
Evidence today may signal at least one.
And fucking fodder for cartoonists now?
Gutter Boys, episode 18. Gutter Boys is a comics podcast about sweet boys, pleasant fellows, and hard-ass, non-binary people. I'm your host, JB, joined once again with my co-host, Cam.
What it do, baby?
Today's episode, we are going to be joined by our good friend and comics colleague, Pete Faecke. Faecke. I still don't like calling them Faecke. It should be fake, right? Like, I'm not wrong about that. It should be fake.
I don't know. It's Faeke, right?
It's Faecke.
Faecke. Yeah, I'd say Faecke. It doesn't look like fake to me.
I don't know. I feel like that's the perfect comic creator name, right? Pete Faecke. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, Pete will be joining us. We'll be discussing their process, background, and their experiences as an organizer. They are one of the many organizers involved at Autoptic, which is a show out in Minneapolis, Minnesota, which is where they happen to live. Before we get into that, though, I figured we'd touch on some news. Cam, what's new with you? Let's talk a little bit about Cam today.
Well, I was hoping to buy My Chemical Romance tickets so I could sell them for $1,000 to...
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's actually pretty smart. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, but they sold out. But I was literally thinking about getting some to flip just because, like, you know that some dumbass would pay the nostalgic.
Yewan's listening to this, like, just like white knuckled.
Yeah. Well, Yewan, you know what? I'm a lot older than you. And, that's okay because My Chemical Romance is just a little bit after my time as an emo lad.
Yeah, I can honestly say I never listened to emo at any point in my life.
Yeah, I when it first came out as that genre, like when Thursday and stuff was out, I was listening to that. Like Thursday was like the last emo band I listened to, I think. Maybe the first Taking Back Sunday record. But
damn, I didn't even fuck with that.
Yeah, that came out like 8th grade for me. So it's like, in high school I found better, quote unquote, better music because I started going to screamo shows, which I don't know if it's better.
Yeah,
or not,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think you've lost your position here.
Yeah, but at the time, I wrote it all off because it wasn't passionate and DIY enough.
Sure.
Yeah, you know how it is.
Would you consider 3-6 Mafia emo? Because they talk about some emotional shit. I mean, when they're not talking about getting their dick sucked. I mean,
they're getting back together, doing a tour.
The whole crew.
Yeah, the whole crew. 3-6 is doing a tour. I saw a Twitter commercial.
Is Crunchy Black even alive?
I don't know. I didn't even know that dude was in 3-6. I just know Juicy J, man. I'm a poser 3-6 fan.
Yeah, no. 3-6 used to be a crew of 6 people.
Well, let me see if he's alive.
Crunchy Black was pretty cool. I don't know.
Yeah, it says he's still alive. He's 45 years old.
All right. Shit, if they're getting the whole crew together, and I mean the whole original 3-6 lineup, I will definitely... I'm on board.
Oh, shit. So Crunchy Black was shot in the face and the leg in Las Vegas in July of 2012 and recovered very quickly from the injuries and was released from the hospital just days after the shooting. After getting shot in the fucking face.
My man. Hell yeah. Crunchy Black strong.
He was apparently one of the originators of G-Walking, too.
Hell yeah.
So,
Crunchy Black fucking rules. I don't know. I just love the way he used to rap. Anyway.
Yeah.
So talking about news, there's a couple of upcoming stuff that's going to be hitting shelves or is currently on what we call the previews. That's some industry talk for you folks. In the latest issue, we have a friend of the show, Matthew Allison. They have a new book out by Ad House Books called Cancor, which, if you know Matthew Allison, you already know what Cancor is. It's an ongoing weirdo superhero book that he's been working on for the last, 5 years probably. And this book will be collecting all of those previous issues plus some new content. And I think this is a long time coming. I'm pretty excited to get this.
Yeah, I'm stoked about that too. But talking about previews, if you don't know what previews is, which if you're listening to the show, you probably know what previews is, but it's like a phone book that comes out, like once a fucking week, or is it once a month?
Of all the comics you can order? Bi-weekly, maybe. I don't actually know.
Can you believe that they fucking charge money for previews though?
Yeah, I do believe that.
Isn't that crazy? You have to buy the fucking catalog that's just literal, like a one paragraph description of comics. Like, don't get me wrong, I guess it's cool to figure out because literally everything that you can get in a shop is in previews, whether it's small press or whatever. But like the fact that they charge for previews is fucking insane to me. Like, I think it's only insane. Like $4, but I mean,
yeah, but I'm not surprised because it's Diamond and Diamond is fucking evil. So
yeah,
I don't know. I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah. And then like now, like Marvel does their own like individual previews book that comes with previews. It's so fucking ridiculous. But besides that, yeah, there was another book that just came out though. Nicole's book. What was the Batgirl book that just came out?
Yeah, Nicole Gouxe. There's a new book, Shadow of the Batgirl.
Yeah, it's about Cassandra Cain, who is the best Batgirl, in my opinion. And that's
but this is like a completely original news story. It has nothing to do with the previous Batgirl stories, I believe. It's non-canon in that sense, I guess.
Yeah, it's on DC Inc., which is their young adult line. There's the regular DC Comics, and then DC Inc. is the new young adult line that they're putting a lot of alternative creators on. So I think they are just standalone books, aren't they? Like everything's just self-contained. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I've seen pictures Nicole's posted. The book looks great. I'll probably grab it this Wednesday when I'm at the shop, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's written by someone named Sarah Kuhn. I'm not gonna lie, I don't really know anything about their work. Yeah, so I hope the book is successful. I hope it does well. It looks like it's getting some pretty positive press. I think mostly because of the art, because Nicole's art obviously is very good. The fucking dog shit copy that DC has describes Nicole's art as edgy art style, which is not something I would think of when I describe Nicole's work, but
they're like, this doesn't look like our roster of 17 other artists, so this must be edgy.
Right. This doesn't look like the same 3 people we've been using for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's great Nicole is, one, getting their name out to a much broader audience outside of the small press scene, which tends to be, well, small. And 2, I think it's great that she's, getting a page rate for it. But I do have some hesitation in terms of how the publisher is going to handle it, and also being like latched to a writer. I have nothing against Sarah Kuhn. I'm sure they're a really nice person. But I kind of wish, because I know Nicole's a good writer. That's the thing. All of her previous work and all of her collaborative work with Dave and stuff, like, she's clearly a good writer. So I don't really understand, outside of them, DC wanting to hedge their bets and just go with a safe option and be like, oh, this person has sold, we'll go with them instead. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, maybe if it goes the way that I'm hoping it goes and Nicole gets, more job offers and more publishers, that's great. And maybe that'll lead into more opportunities where she can have more control over the final, the final book, instead of having to share credit or just, I don't know. If you see it, please go pick it up. Again, it's one of those instances where the fucking DC suits are definitely going to be looking at the sales numbers at the end of the day. They don't give a shit about anything else. As long as it does well, as long as the orders are coming in, that's all they give a shit about. Yeah,
like DC Inc. is like probably very low priority to them unless it sells well, and then they're just going to be like, oh, okay, well, let's just hire a new wave of teams.
And that's another thing too, because I do want to see young adult, or at least this approach to their superhero catalog, to be something more viable for them, because then that means we'll get the opportunity of more weirdo, small press comic artists or just artists that you wouldn't otherwise see working on stuff like this, to, again, get them to a broader audience, get them to become more of a household name so that people who probably wouldn't have known about them now do, and now they have access to this whole back catalog of just amazing work.
Yep.
It's worked before for other people. I mean, Andrew McLean clearly is a good example of that. Michelle Pfeiffe is a good example of that now, within the last year or so. Anyway, we'll see. I want the final outcome to just be a net positive for Nicole, because they deserve nothing but fucking paychecks and adulation and support, because their work is awesome and they're an awesome person.
Boom. So I'll definitely pick that up for, just to support the cause.
For the culture.
For the culture. Yeah. Anything else that's in previews that I want to discuss? I don't think so.
I don't see anything else in the previews that kind of piqued my interest. Amazing Svolker, man.
Yeah, Svolker, man. This will be really good. I'm sure they're relaunching Guardians of the Galaxy or something #1 soon.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, right. In terms of upcoming books, we do see a small up-and-coming publisher that is going to be kickstarting a book here soon. It looks like it's made by two up-and-coming rising stars. I can't pronounce both of their names. Anyway, it looks like they're going to be working. It looks like they used to work on DC. Speaking of DC, they both worked on DC. It looks like one of them used to be an editor and the other used to be a writer. That's good. That's good to have a publisher with two non-artists. That's really smart. Let's see. And what is going to be the new book that they're putting out? Also, I can't read it. That's weird. Okay. Well, whatever it is, I'm sure it'll be really, really great. I'm sure they won't at all be using an underpaid artist that they picked up through processes, because they needed somebody that maybe wouldn't know about their back catalog of bullshit that got them fucking kicked out of the industry in the first place. But you know what? All the best to them. It looks like they're on their way to becoming the hottest new creative team in modern comics. And we'll see how that goes. I await the AMC announcement of purchasing the TV rights for that new hit show that I'm sure will make them a lot of money.
It's called El Ronin.
Wait, for real?
Yeah, the comic. I'm reading the press
El
release.
El
Ronin. So, should we just put these guys on blast? Should we just say who it is? I can. Yeah. All right. So, two people from DC Comics that got kicked out of the scene. Eric Esquivel. I don't know how to pronounce that. Esquivel. He was a writer that was working on that Border Town book, who had sexual assault charges brought up against him, and DC Vertigo kicked him off that book. And then longtime DC editor Eddie Berganza, who also had some female employees of DC come out saying that he sexually assaulted them while on the job, and there were some allegations of sexual harassment and so forth. But both of these guys have gotten kicked out of comics, so what have they done? They've naturally teamed up to start a new publishing company called Alternate Empire. And I've got the press release here. I'll go ahead and read parts of this here. It's easier to destroy than build, but this is where we are now. Building toward a better future, building with our Latino sisters and brothers. And it's in that spirit that I'm proud to announce our new collaboration, Alternate Empire. Alternate Empire is a comic book publishing company that is, quote, dedicated to creating top-tier quality comics for the Latino community and anyone else who wants to read them. So here's the funny thing. The first book that they're putting out is called El Ronin. And here's the plot. A Japanese-American man whose ancestors were incarcerated during the... Did I read that right? Steps up to defend his Mexican-American neighbors from corrupt ICE agents who are trying to extort them. So, I mean, I don't know, man. It's it's whatever. They are using an artist here. It looks like in the press release here, Eddie said, "These last 2 years have been very transformative for me. It allowed me to take a very hard look at myself and my past actions. It demanded that I be a better person. It also allowed me to get more in touch with my Latino roots. The latter brought me into contact with many talented people like our artist Jocelyn Ojeda. She is amazing, and what you will be seeing from her is just the start of what I believe will be an amazing career for her." So our buddy Eddie here used to use tactics like telling female employees at DC that, he was the guy. So if you wanted to sleep with him and so forth, then, you can get a push at DC Comics. So it seems like they're just streamlining the process here. They've gotten some young girl to draw their book, and, props to them, I guess. This tweet announcing this, by the way, has 3 likes and 2 retweets, and the 2 retweets are from the 2 guys involved. So
Goddamn.
yeah, it's pretty fucking horrible, man. I just don't really understand like where the logic is in this. Like, how are you canceled, in comics, and then you want to just start your own publishing company? Like, I mean, what audience are you looking for here? Like
Are rapists.
Yeah.
See, here's the thing. Market research shows that there is a huge gap in marketing towards rapists. And I think these 2 brain geniuses realize that there's an opportunity here where they could profit quite a bit by relating to and marketing towards this sort of overlooked demographic. I think it's pretty progressive. I think it's a huge step forward for comics in general, and I think it's going to open up a lot of doors to jail. And I think, if I'm being honest here, I think this is a great idea, because if we can just get all the scumbags in the industry to just ante up into one publication,
Alternate
under one
Empire.
umbrella. Hey, raise that flag high as hell. I am for that, because now I know who not to buy my comics from. I think that's a perfect idea.
Everybody that gets canceled just gets a book deal automatically with Alternate Empire.
Yeah, it's genius.
Yeah, it just gets to see the mouth breathers that just buy this shit. Yeah, apparently they're trying to crowdfund this shit. So it goes live on Kickstarter on March the 1st. So if you want to support rape in comics,
Jesus. I, for one, think that there is
what they should put special terms and conditions that you don't necessarily agree to. Like, they should hide that shit in the Kickstarter just to really hammer it home that this is not
by
publisher about
pledging,
consent.
you will provide us your phone number, your dimensions.
Yeah, we need some blurred lines here of offering some kind of consent when you subscribe to this.
You have to send an 8x10 of yourself, ideally in a bathing suit. I think it's important that we see. I also love that they're using identity politics in this.
Yeah, they're okay.
God damn,
we
that's
are
fucking
Latino.
hilarious.
Yes, we are rapists as well, but
yeah,
we are Latino. Let's
being
hide behind this.
Being exposed.
Being canceled for the past 2 years has been very transformative for me. It allowed me to take a very hard look at myself and my past actions. It demanded that I be a better person by exploiting more artists.
Yeah. I gotta tell you, being exposed as a sexual predator has really allowed me to tap into my cultural heritage. It's really been able to allow me the space and time to connect with my family and my roots. Yeah, man, that's fucking. And they also mentioned some sort of organization that apparently just doesn't exist. People have tried to look it up and they're like, yeah, we can't find shit for this place.
Dude, okay, so as part of the press release, here's towards the end. As for our writer, Eric I don't know how to pronounce that, but Eric, again, I saw someone very talented who still has a lot to say. We have helped each other out, and I believe we can leave our past behind, and united we can be better people.
Damn, the bravery. Kings, the bravest kings. Damn.
We can leave our past behind. Like,
yeah, right. Oh my god, the wording of that is fucking genius.
Yeah, like it's pretty much.
I think, it took a lot of time and like inflection, like really just like self-reflecting to realize that, you know what, I should just walk away from all the bullshit that I did.
Dude, holy shit. So this press release is amazing. So like it's like broken down when you read it, like it says Eddie and then it's like a colon, so it's like what he said, and then there's like Eric and what Eric said. And Eric's first line, "When I fell from grace."
Oh my god.
When I fell from grace, Los Angeles's Latino creative community caught me, and Eddie Berganza was a big part of that. When I fell from fucking grace.
Damn. I mean, it's like that classic Greek mythology story, guy just flew too close to the sun because he tried to sexually assault it. And
and here's the thing is like, this is not a knock on like Ramon, because Ramon was drawing that book and he didn't know anything about these allegations that came out against this Eric guy. But it's like, dude, if your grace that you fell from was a 6-issue miniseries at Vertigo, it's not really grace, bro. I mean, like, that's not a knock. I would love to do it. But I mean, like, it's like when you say you fell from grace, it seems like you're like saying that you were writing fucking Batman for years or something. But like, you had like a Vertigo book that got canceled after 3 issues. So
my beautiful boy.
Yeah.
My beautiful son. Oh, fell from grace. Yeah, that's fucking amazing. Just the lack of self-awareness. It's like,
yeah, this is so distasteful.
I've been dragged through the mud and I've learned nothing at all from it.
If you could please join me in doing the same exact shit that I was doing.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, well, I'm sure that'll just turn out really well for them.
Well, and also, like, why are they Latinos? Like, okay. So they're talking about, like, doing books that, like, that empower the Latino community, but what they're doing is they're Latino creators who are writing about Japanese men. So like this whole
they're
thing
using the
backwards.
Frank Miller methodology of tapping into a culture that they have nothing to do with.
And like L Ronin, like
God,
you just put an L
good.
in front of it. Like, what the fuck? I hope their Kickstarter gets negative money. Like they end up owing Kickstarter money.
People actually request money from them instead of pledging.
Kickstarter's like, here's the bill for the server space.
Yeah, it's like we didn't even know that this was an option. Honestly, we didn't even have anybody program this in to the platform, but somehow you owe money. Damn.
Dude, tell me why. I'm looking at the Twitter release and tell me why under the relevant trends, right next to it is hashtag justice for Johnny Depp.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Johnny Depp's part of the alternate empire.
Oh man. Yeah, they should at Johnny Depp's account. Say, hey, can we get a plug, King?
You were in Once Upon a Time in Mexico. Yeah. It's Latino enough.
We too have been wronged by the feminazis. Damn.
Oh,
well,
man.
I mean, yeah, Godspeed to the boys.
Yeah, they just killed themselves even further. Like they should have just like made pen names like Akira Yoshida or some shit.
That would have been like, yeah, that would actually make more sense. But
like you find out, years later. But yeah, no, they're just straight up being like, yeah, we're rapists, but we're gonna leave that shit in the past. Here's a comic about a Japanese man. Oh man, yeah. I don't even understand. Like, and that they like looked at this and they were like, yeah, this is totally redeeming. This is gonna get us off the hook.
Oh my god,
fuck,
that's so good.
Let's see, they got 26
just like going
followers.
Through the threads here, and it is fucking hilarious.
Yeah, 26 followers. Oh, here you go. We would absolutely love to see samples from Latino comic book creators. Please share your work with us. Finished work only, please. No scripts. So they're going to just essentially just like, they're going to do that whole like crowdsourcing art for free. But yeah, it's got bad written all over it.
Yeah, I'm just taken aback by the fucking approach.
It's almost like not even real. Like the shit's like it's like an Onion article. Yeah, I'm looking at their social media. Dude, it almost seems like it's like a bunch of burner accounts that got set up. Like the artist, I don't even know if the artist is real because the artist has 27 followers and their only posts are like, it's 2 drawings. This could be one of them drawing and acting like a female.
Oh my God.
Yeah, their Instagram's not even loading. Yeah, what was the third news thing that we were going to talk about though?
Oh, the superhero guy that got arrested for selling drugs. Goddamn.
Phoenix Jones.
Yeah, in other news, segueing, we have local real-life vigilante Phoenix Jones in Seattle who was arrested again, this time on drug charges for selling Molly to a cop.
But we should give some context here. Before he was arrested for selling Molly to a cop, he's been trying to be a superhero since 2011. It looks like he was the leader of the Rain City Superhero Movement, a Seattle, Washington-based citizen patrol group that described itself as Vigilante Crime Prevention Brigade.
Yeah.
So this guy, you should, if you're listening, you should Google him, Phoenix Jones, to see his costume. It literally looks like if your kid wanted you to dress up as like Batman, but it was a bootleg Batman costume from the store, and you did it to make your kid happy, but it didn't fit right. That's what this costume looks like. Got his press coverage here. So yeah, this guy's been in and out of trouble with the law because he's a vigilante, and it was earlier in January. He just got arrested for selling MDMA to an undercover police officer. And he was with a guy that had 4 grams of cocaine as well. So, maybe he's like the CIA. He's trying to put the drugs out into the street so he can bust them crimes up. But do you think when he goes to jail, all the criminals are going to be like, hey, that's Phoenix Jones? Trying to whoop his ass.
Yeah, it's just like it's like Kick-Ass but sadder.
Dude, this guy is 31 and he's like just trying to be a hero. This is the guy that like is so rich that he buys a Batmobile replica and just like gets off on getting pulled over by the cops so people can see that the cops pulled over a Batmobile. Yeah,
this is like Batman getting pulled over and then like testing positive for cocaine and gets arrested. Yeah, I mean, look, if you are dumb enough to read Watchmen and your takeaway is actually superheroes are good and I should be one, I don't know what to tell you, man. I think Poppin' Molly is the last of your problems. In fact, you know what? Maybe you should just segue into just selling Molly. I feel like that's way more productive.
Dude, at this point, yeah, it's got to be more lucrative, right? I mean,
it's more lucrative. It's more respectable. It does more positive for the community. I mean, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. I think there was some other clash that he had with protesters during May Day because he was trying to protect fucking property. He was trying to protect buildings. It's just, man, it just baffles my mind that people read like stuff that's been beaten to the ground at this point now, but stuff when it was coming out in the 80s was just like, highly critical postmodern writing on superheroes and being like, yeah, this is not a good idea. Superheroes are like probably all insane. And he got something different from those stories, I guess, than I did, because the fact that he thought it was a smart idea to fucking dress up like this and start assaulting strangers on the street, let alone selling Molly to a undercover cop. I mean, dude, come on. You're supposed to be a superhero. You're supposed to know better than selling drugs to a cop.
And it was an undercover cop too, so it's
yeah. I mean, you can tell a fucking undercover cop from a mile away, dude. Like, I don't know.
You're right. Like, if you've ever sold drugs in your life, when you're not supposed to be selling drugs to a certain individual. Like, if some dude would like narc on you if he got like pulled over, and you would know if you were talking to an undercover cop. Like, surely, if you've sold a few dime bags in your day, you would know that.
Maybe he doesn't have street smarts,
but. he's busting up the streets. I'm looking at articles, and the Seattle city attorney, his name's Pete Holmes, I guess, like the comedian, but Pete Holmes labels Jones a deeply misguided individual.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
anyway, well, okay. Well, I think that's it for the news. I think that's it. All right. I think that's it for the news for this segment.
We'll be back after the break with our friend and special guest, Pete Faecke. You fucked me up, see? It's
I got you good. I got you good, bitch. All right.
We'll be right back.
Hand me the sacred spice, mutant.
Take it, but leave my ultravision goggles. I cannot survive without them.
So you want to live in a comic book?
Greetings, puny mortals.
Welcome to the Comic Zone. Slay fiendish villains that get drawn back in page by hellish page. You'll feel right at home.
From the darkness of the oven, the slain beast.
We will live another day.
Comic Zone, only for Sega Genesis.
Hey, JB here for Gutter Boys. If you're a regular listener, you know that we normally run ads during this slot, and while what I'm about to say is technically an ad, it's not for money. So just to be clear, this is not a paid ad. If you're anything like me, Cam, and the rest of the Gutter Gang, you probably agree that people shouldn't have to be in debt for the rest of their lives due to mounting medical bills, or worse, fall into an early grave due to a treatable condition. Or that the environmental crisis is a detrimental threat to our world, or that corporations and the billionaires of this country that profit off of the misery and pain of millions for the sake of their quarterly earnings is, well, unjustifiable. And maybe you believe imperialism and the police state's unchecked abuse of power needs to come to an end. If all of that is true, then there's really only one person in the game right now that will fight for us. His name is Bernie Sanders, and he needs your help more than ever. So please, go to berniesanders.com and donate your time or your money or both, if you can. Together, we will finally have our seat at the table. And while it will by no means be a walk in the park, because let's face it, it never has and never will be, know that you aren't alone in this fight. None of us are. As long as we keep fighting for one another.
Now, back to our program.
And we're back from our break. Today we are joined by our special guest coming from Minneapolis, Minnesota. They're a comic artist and show organizer and very good friend of the show, Pete Faecke. Pete, how are you doing today?
Doing good.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on to the show. I know we've been trying to get you on for a little bit, so I'm glad we could make it happen.
For sure.
Yeah, so I figured we should just get right into it and discuss process. I think that is something that I think you tend to enjoy talking about, and it's something that we are interested in, just because you are heavily sort of involved with your process and figuring things out. And so let's talk a little bit about your previous releases and how they relate to your process, and sort of where are you at mentally when you start approaching a book or a story or anything like that? Is there any sort of are you a heavy planner, or do you kind of just dive in nose first? Do you have a very specific step-by-step thing that you like to follow?
Yeah, it depends on the project. For the most part, though, I'm a really heavy planner. So something like Major Bummer, that's going to be thumbnailed and then scripted. And then I think in previous issues, thumbnailed again and then penciled. So I'm trying to cut down on that second step of thumbnails just to speed it up a little bit. But yeah, I tend to be a pretty heavy planner. Every once in a while, I'll do something where I just dive in. That Barbarian one, if you guys read that one I just fucking blasted that out really, really quick, and scripted the thing. I actually wrote it like immediately after finishing Angloid, the Alex Graham book. That shit is so good. And like the clarity of the language on that, I was just like, oh, I can just make simple comics, and like sat down and fucking wrote something really fast. And then it was really easy to just go from there. Generally, I'm a planner though.
Do you usually like, are you working on multiple books at once usually, or do you try to put all your focus into one?
I try to. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I try to work on multiple at one. I try to go like while I'm penciling or inking one, I like to be writing another, or like thumbnailing another. But generally there gets to be a point where like the workload is getting so heavy on the one that I'm trying to finish that I don't have time to work on anything else.
Well, and before we were kind of talking before we started recording the episode about how a lot of your stuff is just genre specific for that individual comic. Do you, I know you said you're like a planner, do you do a lot of research from like just stuff in that genre beforehand, or do you try to keep it light so you're not ripping it off? Like
yeah, I try to put a lot of like Easter eggs and like heavy direct references and shit like that. Like, if there's real heads reading the stuff who are like reading the same shit I am, I want those people to be able to tell what I'm reading. I very much think about my comics in dialogue with the history of comics. Okay. So yeah, sometimes I've definitely like fucking sat down and read like a shitload of comics in a specific genre to try to get the thing figured out. I wrote a script for that for Hyena Hell to draw for that anthology MS Harkness did with Tinto last year.
Yeah, I read that.
Yeah. So for the romance script, I sat down and I took notes on like 4 or 5 different young romance Simon Kirby comics, so I could like get the beats down and like figure out like, okay, so by page 2 we should be at this point, and like page 1 is when you get like character intro, and then you meet the character's family, and then page 2 they're on their first date, and like, yeah, I really sit down and fucking like map that shit out.
So is that pretty like formulaic on all those Simon Kirby like comics?
Yeah,
okay,
it's pretty tight.
Yeah, I've read that stuff, but I've never really paid attention to like how it all had the same beats and everything. It's interesting. I'm gonna have to like pay attention to that next time.
Yeah, there's like they got like an 8-page one. They might do a 6-page once in a while, and then most of them I think are like 14, and it tends to go about the same. If you look at like EC, like Tales from the Crypt and stuff like that, they do a lot of similar shit where it's like if it's an 8-page story, you're like here by page 2. If it's a 12-page story, you're here by page 2. They got real specific beats. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm gonna have to pay. Like, that's one thing that like I don't pay attention to as much as I should. Like, I just try to just make stuff that, and that's one thing I actually admire about you and Patrick Ian Rooks specifically, is because like you all are you guys are like such students of the game, and like I just like make comics and I'm just like, oh, I'm just gonna tell the story that I want. Where you all meticulously plan the stuff out to where I feel like your work is, you're putting out like exactly what you want. You have complete control of it. I'm more of a stream of conscious. Oh, it's done. I don't really, and I need to, actually study how that shit works. Well,
it depends on what you're trying to do, man. I feel like we're in like an era of comics where like anybody can do it however they want, which is what I love about comics. And so, like in the underground era, you like really had to be versed on like EC, like you had to know what the fuck was going on. Because that was everybody's reference point. But we've got like such a breadth of history of comics at this point that like you don't have to fucking do it any one way, and like you're telling more natural stories than I am, because you're not fucking looking at these like super mechanical beats that I'm paying attention to, so my shit, I'm talking about what I want to talk about, but I don't think that the way that you're approaching it is like better or worse, or it's just another way to make comics.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to put it too. And I just think that the way you could just like, I feel like if I read my own work next to yours, I feel like reading your work feels like it's a product of like love and care. Every comic I've read of yours, like I can tell that. I don't want to say like it's like I think it's like the best it could be. Like your stuff just feels very like complete and like tightly wrapped up, and that's something that like I don't.
Well, I'm happy to hear that, man. That's like that kind of shit. You know, you don't. One of the things about working really process heavy is I think people don't talk too much about process. Maybe Pat has a different experience than I do, but that's the kind of feedback you don't hear very often. So, yeah, I'm glad to hear that shit's coming through because you know it's like. Really important stuff for me and my thinking about what I'm doing.
Yeah, I think when talking about comics, at least like the process end and you know, picking that up when you're reading a book, it's something that only, for the most part at least, only people that actively are doing it as well will pick up on, or at least be able to discuss and dissect. There's definitely some people who don't create comics, but you know, consume enough to the point, especially the kind of comics that you're influenced by, specifically a lot of like the sort of like the golden age or pre-golden age comics like Stardust and those weirdo comics that can recognize that sort of visual language that you're using and be able to pinpoint that. Or especially like academics, you know, sometimes like people that are just involved, and there's a lot of like crossover. I mean, I know we mentioned Josh Baer. He's sort of someone I would see as an academic who also happens to make comics too.
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
And I think that his style kind of like mirrors that too. I mean, his work is like, I don't know how to describe it other than like him just like brutally attacking the page. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, there's that, but I think his stuff is really like a very concise, and he just keeps getting more concise with it. It's like, if you know what his stuff looks like, it's maybe a weird word to choose, but he's one of those fucking guys where he's got so much going into his brain, and he's got so much information from like comics and music and like flyer art and, you know, whatever the fuck else he's looking at, movies. He's got so much shit being processed, and then he's like distilling it all down to like just the stuff from those things that he gives a shit about, and then he's putting that back out for you to like see what he thinks is cool, right? You know, it's like it's a response to all of the you know, like little, you know, like one sentence lines from the fucking movie that was just like, oh shit, and then you got like a whole fucking story off of that, you know. He's so good with that kind of storytelling and comic making.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, I mean, when I look at his stuff, I just feel like he's just barreling through it with all of these ideas that he has in his mind. But even like,
he's really fearless.
Exactly. And I think that comes through also in just like how he renders stuff.
Oh no, absolutely.
You know, it almost feels like he's kind of like, it feels like he's just kind of like chiseling out these images and figures. It's really strange, but like, I don't know, you can tell he's enjoying it too.
It's like Harriman pages. It's like looking at a George Harriman page where it's just like, if you look at the originals of those, they're just beat to hell. It's just like fucking so layered with ink, and like, I don't know if he was using whiteout or white paint or anything, but he's like scraping up the fucking ink off of the page with a razor blade, and it's just torn to shit. They're amazing to look at.
Yeah, and I think it's just, it comes through that you can tell he's having a good time the whole way through. Like he's enjoying himself thoroughly whenever you see one of his pages.
That's like the thing I'm worried about with, because I was working looser like a few years ago. If you look at some of my older stuff, it's a lot looser and like a little gnarlier with the drawing, and I'm getting like super fucking tight now. I was looking at like old like CC Beck and old Captain Marvel stuff, the Shazam stuff, and I feel like the tighter I get, like the more afraid I look on the page, you know. I'm like fucking I'm like not drawn fearless anymore, you know.
Do you think that hesitation,
like a scared man drawn tight?
Yeah, I mean, do you think that hesitation just comes out from the way you're now rendering stuff, or is it?
Yeah, I think it's that. I think it's also like, for me, trying to work loose was always a battle. You know, I've been talking to Drew Lerman a lot, Snake Creek. I hope I'm saying his name right. But I've been talking to him a lot, and we were having this conversation about like the way that we draw recently. And it sounds like for him to try to draw the way I draw, it's like such an uphill battle.
Yeah.
And for me to just like be clean and fucking concise and tight, it just clicks in my brain better, you know? I wish sometimes that I could do like a fucking just like wild man, gnarly, you know, crazy line, crazy page layout or whatever, but it just clicks so much easier to do that.
Yeah. Sorry. I was going to say, I mean, in terms of like how you approach comics and just drawing in general, are you the one that are you the type that tends to like prefer drawing from life or references or a combination of both, or and even with the references, do you like just combining stuff from like the way other people draw or how they draw, the stuff that they render, or like photo images or just stuff like that, or is it a combination of all those things?
Yeah, it's definitely a combo of all of them, and I think some of that is trying to like, you know, be the like, I don't know, like scholarly, you know, or like student of the game kind of shit like you were talking about before, trying to like, I definitely am looking at other people's drawings and trying to draw that, you know. Yeah. I swipe so shamelessly, man. If I find some shit that I think looks cool, I like straight up stole a 2-panel sequence out of the Daredevil run after Frank Miller, whereas
and
John Romita Jr.
Yeah, that shit was good.
Yeah. There's a fight scene in there that's just like the cleanest, slickest shit I've ever seen in my life, and I
think I know what you're referring to.
Yeah. I just swiped 2 panels straight out of it.
Yeah, just like how they lay out kinetic movement like that, but doing it in such like a economic way where you can just show so much in just 2 panels, you know?
Yeah, you can see it moving, man.
Yeah, exactly.
You can see what happened in the gutter. So infrequently in a fight scene can you actually see the like keyframe of what happened in the gutter, and you can see that shit in that book, man. That's some of the best artwork I've ever seen. That stuff really blew me away.
Yeah, that whole run is awesome. I really like that run. I've got it all like here. Actually, I'm looking at a stack of it right now. It's fucking amazing. I love Romita. Yeah, Romita. I think I like Romita Jr.
Yeah, I think that's his best work, man. From what I've seen, that and like the Punisher stuff that he did around the same time, maybe a little earlier. That stuff is really good.
Oh yeah, that stuff's awesome. I even really like I know a lot of people don't like his like newer stuff, but I thought he really knocked that Batman book that he just did out of the park. That shit was awesome. That All-Star Batman.
I'm so on it, man. I can't look at the fucking colors they're doing now.
Yeah,
you can't even see the fucking drawing anymore, man. I want to be able to see the drawing in the comic, you know. It doesn't even look like a fucking drawing anymore.
Well, and that's what like Patrick Rooks was over at my house before we went to somewhere. It was either Cake or CZF last year, and we were talking about like superhero comics, because I'll still buy, you know, new Batman shit, and we were looking at it and I was like, well, just imagine it without the color. And he was like, yeah, it's actually pretty awesome if you do that. So yeah, we were.
Yeah, but fuck you, man. I don't want to have to delete part of your fucking book in my brain to enjoy it. You know, that sucks.
Buy the black and white artist edition 5 years later, like for $80.
Real quick, I mean, touching on the sort of like the types of artists that you're interested in, and the you know, how you render stuff. I know you'd mentioned that you are super invested in genre. But in terms of how you approach genre in your books, you tend to, I would say that your interest in genre is slightly different than most people's interest in genre in comics, in that you tend to cover a lot of sort of the hyper masculine tropes within the genre or within genre comics. And so could you talk a little bit about, you know, how that affects your work and why specifically, you know, genre, in terms of where you're coming from, why you're so interested in exploring that?
Yeah. I'm always trying to subvert genre. I like kind of never want to do just a straight up genre comic. Probably that Boy Howdy I did last year is like the closest thing that I would consider to like a straight up genre comic, and that was kind of just to like try and prove to myself that I could, because I just like never do something straight up like that.
Well, you do a lot of formal exercises like that too, I feel like.
So I'm always trying to subvert it, and then like the masculinity stuff is very much tied to being queer and like being so interested in like hyper masculine media, and you know, when I'm thinking about Cam talking about like wanting to do stuff similar to like me or Pat, and like me and Pat are looking at a lot of similar work. I think something that I think about is like, the shit I'm looking at is like all old white dudes who were probably shitty people in some way or another, so like my stuff is like deeply rooted in like a pretty rough history, so as a queer person and as a cartoonist and somebody who's like trying to have something to say about comics as a medium or an art form or whatever. I'm trying to subvert that stuff, and I'm trying to like find out what that means to me. Cause for me, I feel like comics are genre is like so central to my notion and my understanding of comics, with like the early golden age stuff. And it's like, you got the romance book and the Western book and the sci-fi book. Yeah. And, it's genre shit. But I don't like those like Image does this thing now where they do like their version of genre now is like you take like a fucking Western and then you put werewolves in it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
It's just like, that shit sucks, dude. That's so fucking lazy. You can do so much more to fucking like figure out something interesting to do with either of those tropes. Like, give me a cool ass, weird ass Western or a cool ass, weird ass fucking werewolf book, but I don't need a fucking half ass version of both,
No, dude, that's it. Yeah. Absolutely. And it seems like so many, like, because Image, I guess, is like what people think indie comics, like the mainstream thinks indie comics are. And you're right. Like, it's just like so many of those fucking books are like,
this is a lot of surface level shit, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Post-apocalyptic with just different things plugged into it, like, so it's.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to avoid, man. I think I'm like mostly known for Major Bummer, and I kind of like flinch at that a little bit sometimes because I worry that people are seeing me, especially like, that first issue was like, I think that was like 4 or 5 years ago now, so I was just like a very different cartoonist at that time, and I was riffing more on like Mara and like ironic genre takes, and I worry that like people see me as like a fucking like ironic genre guy or like ironic hypermasculinity guy, and I'm really trying to say more than that.
Well, and I guess it's probably because I think I have all of your work, or I've read it, or all the stuff that you printed. I think I've picked it up from you. And I think, like, to me, when you read Major Bummer in the context of the rest of your work, you could tell that it's just like you trying on that genre for that book. And so I hear where you're coming from, because it's probably, because that one was Hidden Fortress put that out, right?
Yeah, he put out both of those. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and it was like, by the time I started working on number 2, it was like, okay, well, I don't want to just like do some surface level shit like issue 1. So I was really trying to like kind of undo some of what I did with 1 and be like, okay, we're going to take a turn. We're going to take like a hard left for the rest of this thing and like goof off in a different way,
Right. No, I love those books. And yeah, I think that it's kind of funny because, like, you said you were trying to riff on Mar. Like, that's exactly what I thought. It has like that it has that like dry, like Terror Assaulter.
Yeah. Terror Assaulter was big for me at that time. I got to reread that book.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's that book is like, it makes me laugh out loud. Like the dialogue in that book, it's so funny.
Well, and he's like, he's really towing a line with that thing where he's kind of at once doing the thing that I don't like that people do with genre, but then also he's like finding a way to like subvert the stupid take on genre. He's like taking it a step further than I took it on that thing. So.
Well, it almost seems like it's almost a self-aware parody with his work is how it comes off to me. So, so, because I mean, he kind of has that theme running through a lot of his work. Like the night business stuff is kind of similar. Like the dialogue,
it's all very tongue in cheek.
So absolutely.
Yeah, and I want to keep that stuff too. I just I want to talk about like queerness and fucking being a queer man. I feel like it's really fucking weird to be a queer man right now, where it's almost like everybody I know who's male bodied or like assigned male at birth or whatever is like leaving behind male pronouns as they move into queerness. And I just feel like, there's some maleness doesn't look good, it really hasn't for a long time. And I'm trying to like figure out what the fuck that means to me. I want to talk about that shit in my work.
Well, and you've kind of, it's been a while since I've read that, but there was the comic you did, I think it was Partners.
Yeah.
Wasn't that kind of, you kind of exploring, like, it kind of seemed like.
Yeah, that was kind of me coming
kind of
out
a romance,
in comics.
but.
Yeah, that was me just kind of like
Okay,
announcing the
yeah.
thing. I'm bisexual too. I always feel like I gotta like pansexual or whatever. I always feel like my partner is a woman right now. I always feel like I gotta like come out twice as like once is gay and then once is straight again. You know, it's fucking weird. It's a weird space to be.
Yeah, and and that's the thing. It's like, and that's cool that you can actually explore that in comics. It's cool that we're at a place in comics where that's, something that you can do, and there's like a place where you can sell that. You know, like, because that wasn't something that was. I don't even know if that was possible 10 years ago, like in the avenues that it is now.
Dude, some of my favorite shit is finding where it looks like people were doing that. Back in the day, like Mike Zack has all this like his stuff is so homoerotic, man, and it's like he'll just slip in like 3 or 4 panels in an issue, where it's like just the juiciest butts on these guys, just fucking like, and he squeezes them in there, man, like on Kraven and fucking Punisher, and he's got like Punisher leaning out a window with his ass just like front and center in the panel. Kraven's like running around naked and shit. It's fucking, I love finding those old moments where it's like, oh shit, no, superheroes were always like kind of gay.
Yeah, shit's awesome. I mean, because it's definitely something that like, especially like back in the day, I don't know when those comics were coming out, but I mean, you see a lot of that stuff that just like kind of went under the radar, where like, it's such an isolated business. Like you were kind of working through your own shit on the page. So yeah,
for sure. And I have no idea if Mike Zack even knew he was doing it, or if he's just like, oh, well, the guy has a butt, so if he's going to be here, then I'm just going to draw the butt, but I have no idea if he's like being homoerotic on purpose or not, but his stuff is super homoerotic.
We do need to plug Autoptic though, and then I kind of want to talk about
let's
Pete,
talk about that.
Being event organizing, planning, and so forth. Because like you said earlier, he's heard us talk on the show. We have no idea what it's like on the other side of the coin. So,
well, you guys got some legitimate shit to say, and it's we should be trying to do better. But the problem with organizing a comic show is the same fucking problem you have with comics, right? Is there's no fucking money there, and there's no fucking money coming in, at least for our show. I know some people are making money coming in, but like anything that's coming in is going right back into next year's show. So it's really hard to like try to grow these things and like expand these things and do better on this or the other thing. And it's really difficult to do that when there's just like no money and no fucking time.
Yeah, I mean, that touches on our last episode where we kind of were talking about Amazon and Comicer, and I feel like they're able to be predatory in those situations and be able to come in for these events.
Yeah, because you need the money.
Exactly, because they know.
No, I'm totally with it
strapped.
to not be working with those guys too. I think that's the way to go for sure. But I understand the fucking like appeal of being like, well, do we want to work with Comixology? Like, even if they weren't owned by Amazon, dude, I fucking hate the layout. The fucking guided reading shit, that's just like the worst thing that we've done to comics as a fucking, where they just go.
Is that where the panels like move?
Oh,
yeah,
God,
I hate that
worst,
shit. That's why I don't like digital stuff. Yeah, I don't.
So even if Comixology wasn't with Amazon, I'm still like, I hate that company, But but yeah, I mean, I get where you want that. We're working on grants and we're working on trying to figure out how we can, like, with Autoptic, every year that we've started the show, we've started it in debt. And every year that we've started the show, organizers have paid out of pocket to make that show happen.
Yeah.
So, and that money comes back, I think. Although I think I probably got like 150, maybe like $200 that I've put into that organization that I haven't seen back. Yeah, I mean, it's tough to do, man. It's a tough thing to do. Maybe something like Cake's been around. They got some good momentum, and they might not be in the same situation there. Something like SPX, I mean, it looks like they have enough going on. There's a reason that Amazon's courting them, right? I mean, they got a big enough name recognition that like Amazon thinks they can get something out of that partnership.
Right.
So maybe somebody like SPX isn't dealing with those same problems, and if that's the case, then like, yeah, you should be able to do something with more of these nuanced issues. But I know just a lot of shows, I gotta imagine behind the scenes, it's just like, Jesus fucking Christ, guys, let's just try to get this thing to happen and like make a situation where people can show up and make money. You know, let's just try to make this good enough, like get the people in the door so people can come make some money.
So I've always like wondered this, because like Autoptic, like you'll have your like special featured guest. Are you all like footing the bill for their travel and
so
everything?
That gets paid for by the show. That usually happens through table fees, I would assume, most shows. So table fees are generally paying for the venue, whatever like food or whatever else, like food and water and whatever else you have to buy for vendors, and special guest stuff. And then special guests are always a little bit nuanced too, because like some people you will get for nothing, even like out of town people. The last time we did Autoptic, like one of our bigger names was going to be in town anyway, so we wound up, and they like had family in town and everything, so we wound up not having to pay for air or a hotel or anything like that, and we like got the benefit of having this big name without having to do that shit. But generally that's being paid for by table fees. The kind of shit that's being paid for out of pocket is like a deposit for the venue, because you got to reserve that shit way ahead of time. Yeah. And in the off season for the show, there's no fucking money coming in.
Right.
Well, and you all take an interesting model. You all do a year on, a year off, right?
Yeah. Which I guess that used to be pretty normal, man. I feel like people, maybe like we've all been doing this for like five-ish years now. I feel like we all like didn't know that TCAF used to be that way. And
like, I didn't know that till just now.
Yeah. The older cartoonists and like Tom K, some of the older guys who have been around a little bit longer on Autoptic, they'll just be like, yeah, no, it's not fucked up at all to go a year on, a year off. Everybody used to do that, or like that used to be a really normal thing. But yeah, it seems weird to me. It feels harder to get some momentum, but it's also just like, you know, we got like probably like 3 to 6 dedicated people showing up every other week year round, even on off years, trying to make this fucking thing happen. And if you don't take that year off, you're like, you know, I think Cake people, I might be wrong, but I think Cake, they just like, as soon as that fucking show is done, like within a month, you're planning the next one, you know, it's exhausting.
A random question, sorry. For like the chairs and tables and stuff, is that provided by the venue, or do you have to rent them?
So the old venue that we were doing, we had to rent them, and that was actually a decent chunk of change too, and that was something table fees were paying for too. And then so this one, I think at the new venue they're provided, but we need to double check some of that stuff. Yeah, it depends on the venue.
Okay.
And you table at Autoptic as well as being an organizer, correct? Like, so is that just a whole nightmare in itself? Like, can you not focus on your table because of the fact that, you know, you're having to worry about the show? I
wasn't too worried about it. Autoptic weekend too, I was just like, I was getting drunk and I was staying up and I was just like, we just spent so fucking long trying to make this fucking thing happen. I'm just like, you know, once these pieces are moving, I'm like, I'm chilling, man, and I'm just trying to fucking make my money and do the table and like make sure that nothing lights on fire, you know. Like, I'm not too worried about it day of, and by the time of the weekend, like pretty much all the pieces are in place. It's like the week before when things get really fucking gnarly. It can be the helpful thing with Autoptic is we have somebody on the board who is works at MCAD and is a cartoonist, but I don't think he's spending as much time on his personal work anymore, so he's not tabling. And then we also get volunteers, so we kind of have like a point person who's not tabling, who's running the shit, and then everybody else is like tabling and just kind of like filling in where we need to.
And then so whenever, because, you know, I looked at the lineup for the last time, but I mean, like, when you're curating guests, because of the fact that you're taking a year off, are you, you know, you're almost like having to plan, because, you know, with comics, it almost seems like, I don't want to say like somebody gets hot in comics, but it does almost seem like, you know, when someone's like, there's always like those breakthrough cartoonists every year that you see, like, you know, it was Richie Pope last year, I feel like, and then this year it was like a Ben Passamore. So with you working with like a gap in between shows, are you trying to be conscious of the guests that you select, like knowing that, you know, like let's say, you know, Ben Passamore has a book out this year, are you going to put him on next year's show, or are you getting with
No, we're just looking for the year ahead. Like I'm currently working on special guest stuff. I'm like sending out the emails to Fantagraphics and D&Q and whoever else. We're just looking at like the upcoming catalog and paying attention to that. I kind of just try to like keep my ear to the ground and like pay attention to who I think is interesting. But a lot of it for special guest stuff. I know some shows are more curated. We have an all new board with Autoptic. The last show was the new board, and then the 2 before that was the old board. There's like maybe 1 or 2 people that have been on both, but with the new board, special guests are done like much more off of opportunity. So it's like, who do we know? Who is Uncivilized putting out? Who do we already have a relationship with? Because, we're also like, we're not like a huge name on the festival circuit. And we're a 1-day show. So that's potentially kind of a tough sell, depending on what your show schedule looks like. So it's much more like opportunity. I know the old board was like very specific about like they had a very specific vision on what they were doing, but with where we're at right now, we don't have the time or the resources to be that specific. We're very much like make the show happen, get some names that are big enough that we're gonna like bring people in off of the street, and then make a good place where people can come and hang out and sell their books and have a good show.
You mentioned how, well, and I might have misinterpreted it, but do you feel like it's a disservice that you're only 1 day? Like you feel like that's working against you?
Well, I feel like, it's 1 day to sell. So if you're like flying in and you're paying your own airfare and everything, that might be tough. But, short run was awesome. The last year we did it, it was like a gallery kickoff thing on Friday night, and then we had panels all day on Saturday, and then we had the actual show on Sunday. And I thought that was awesome. I thought more shows should do that, because you can actually go to the fucking panels and like be in the city and like do whatever the fuck you want to do. If you're there for the weekend, you don't just have to like be behind a table both days.
Yeah,
I think that shit's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like from tabling, I wish more shows were 1 day.
Yeah. We got to do this year. We got to do the panels and the show are on the same day. So we'll see how people feel about it. It's pretty standard. I think everybody would like to see it go 2 days with panels 1 day and tabling another day. But
yeah, I do like programming separated. CXC does it like that too.
It just schedule wise, we just had to do it on the same day this time.
But no, I mean, like as far as like, tabling, because usually, I mean, you all know how it is. Like there's always like, if there's like a multiple day
there's
show,
panels you're trying to go to.
And it's that.
Yeah, and if you're a special guest, you gotta like leave your table for an hour. If you're only there for 6 hours and you're gone for one of them, Yeah,
it's a lot of sales you could potentially miss out on, especially if you're bigger. And then honestly, like, from a selling standpoint, like, I don't know if it's like this for you, but I always feel like every time there's like a multiple day show, there's always 1 day that everybody sells really well. And then the next day is always just like when you do your trading and everybody's like, so I don't know.
Yeah. And those days are a fucking drag, man. When you're just like hanging out all day, you're tired as fuck. And you're trying to like just make a few bucks off of these books, and it's just not happening, man. You did like so good the day before or whatever. That shit's a bummer.
You did so well that you went out and bought $100 dinner, and then the next day you don't make the money back.
Yep.
It's a fucking struggle.
Man, I never do that shit. I'm so tight with my fucking the money I'm making at these shows. I'm just like ridiculous about it.
I need to be. I don't keep inventory or anything at all.
It's probably goes with working slow, man, because I'm just like, I'm not gonna see this money again for so fucking long. I gotta make this fucking money last. Plus we were talking about this the other day. I only work 25 hours a week, right? I'm making better money than I was at the old job, but 25 hours a week, that's like a half of your fucking paycheck, that's like my whole fucking month is like another person's single paycheck,
right? Like a 2 week,
so I gotta be tight with it. Yeah.
Awesome.
So the applications are open right now for 2020. And then I mentioned the venue changing. We're moving from the Aria, which was like downtown Minneapolis, to I think it's the Grand Ballroom. It's one of the ballrooms, one of the big like convention venues, and the U of M. So we're switching venues, and then applications are open now. The show is going to be Saturday, August 15th, and then the application deadline is April 15th. So get them in and come out and see what's going on, and then fucking come out for the weekend and do the thing on Saturday, and then hang out and like do touristy shit on Sunday. It'll be a good time.
Awesome.
I think I'm gonna try to make it out there. So one way or another, it's on my list.
Let me know, man. We'll find a place for you guys to stay. That'd be no problem.
Yeah, because it's on my list of shows to do this year. So just to hang out with the Minneapolis crew.
Is super cool in the summer too, man. It's a nice city. It's really pretty, and it's like a smaller city. It's super residential, and it's just like it's a pretty mellow spot in the summer.
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah. So Autoptic 2020, August 15th at the, what was the, I know it was U of M. What was the?
It's at the U of M, yeah. Grand Ballroom, I think.
Okay. Applications are open until April.
Yeah. It's, let me get the exact date again. April 15th. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get some more street traffic, because it's like, it's right on the light rail, and it's right on like the Greenway bike path, and it's on campus, so hopefully it'll be like more people just walking in off of the street than that like downtown spot kind of tucked away that's hard to park at.
All right, well, before we go, was there anything that you wanted to plug? New releases? How can people find you online? Yada yada.
Oh yeah, I'll give my embarrassing Instagram. You can find me online. Like, all my shit is just on Instagram now. That's pretty much all I use. And that's at @the_stink_hole. And then the next book I'm doing is going to be another double digest. So I'm trying to do a series of these. Hopefully that'll pick up and be a cool thing. But those split comics like I did last year with A.T. Pratt. So the new one is going to be a detective genre double digest, and I'm doing that with Drew Lerman, Snake Creek. I'm really fucking stoked. Snake Creek, I think, was one of the best books of last year. So I'm really excited to be working with him, and I think that's going to be good. Really Easy is putting that out too.
Hell yeah.
Shout out to Eric.
So we're going to be working with Eric. Yeah, I'm stoked. I'm really excited for that one.
Yeah, it should print. I know the stuff I've seen from Really Easy is like printed super nice, so that should be awesome.
Yeah, it's gonna look awesome. He's gonna have those little rounded corners on it, a laminated cover and everything. It's gonna look great.
Hell yeah.
So I got that one. I'm going to be in Gutter with Cam. We've mentioned it.
Yeah, I've mentioned it on the show. There's going to be an anthology coming out for, it should be debuting at TCAF. Pete's got a really good story in that, along with Blake Sims. Pablo's going to be in there. Caroline Cash, Evan Salazar, Josh Pettinger, and I know I'm forgetting some people, but I'll be plugging it on future episodes. But yeah, Pete's got a really good story in there.
Yeah, I hope people dig it, man. I worked really hard on that one, and I feel like it's like a real weird. I'm trying to push into some more like David Lynchy, John Watersy kind
it was
of
very
like
surreal. Yeah, it was a surreal story. I think that it's gonna stand out a lot from the other stories, which I think is cool. Yeah, it's really awesome. I'm really happy with how it turned out.
Yeah. Well, I hope people dig it, man. I'm just like desperately trying to impress people with this stuff, so I hope.
I don't think you have to worry about that. I don't think you have to worry about that, Pete.
I'm gonna keep worrying, man. I appreciate it, but I'm gonna keep worrying.
Nah. All right. Well, yeah. Thanks so much for coming on to the show. We really appreciate you, and we'll be.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I'm really glad.
Yeah, you were
able to make it happen.
You got to come on, and we'll just like talk shop, not just about you, like kind of like we do.
Dude, I would love to do that. Just talk about what we're reading and fucking.
I mean, we got cake.
You know what the good old stuff is, and I would love to do.
We'll have the whole crew.
Yeah, we should do some recording on the road or something.
Yeah,
if you guys
can bring my mic.
Figure out how to make that happen. That'd be super fun.
Are you doing cake this year?
Am I? Yeah. I'm for sure doing cake. I'll be down there one way or another.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Hopefully I get a table again. That one's it's getting more consistent, but I've had some trouble with that in the past. So I'll be down there one way or another.
Right.
That the Detective Double Digest should be out for that.
Sweet.
So.
Hell yeah.
Love to see it.
I'll see you at cake then for sure.
All right.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Well,
All right.
yeah. Well, that'll be it for this episode. Episode 18 is in the books. Stay tuned next episode where we will be discussing dialectics with Professor Noam Chomsky. Until then, stay gutter, y'all.
Let me throw in a quick I'm sorry to anybody on the Autoptic board if I said something I wasn't supposed to. Sorry, guys.
Canceled. Canceled.
Kicked off the board. No longer an organizer.
Damn.
And just go back to drawing comics all the time.
You're gonna have to join that canceled publication.
Yeah, the fucking the Empire.
alternate Empire.
We'll Major Bummer out with those guys. All right. Jesus Christ. All right. Bye, boys. Have a good night.
Smoke that for 6 Mafia. Smoke that, no that, smoke that for 6 Mafia. Smoke that, no that, smoke that for 6 Mafia. Smoke that, no that, smoke that for 6
early Tuesday morning on that devil shit. Time to hit the track, I got a sack, now where it's 666. Riding big apart, trying to find a nigga at the stove. Cheap is what I'm making, cause I'm waking up on the floor. If you think I'm lying, or you think that you can test, nuts fall with the 45, shoot 'em in this fucking club. Going insane in the brain, all aboard on the train. Funky town, gotta stop, get a tank. Now I'm high, really high, man, I'm about to shout. South Park, gangsta black, 666. Look down.
The X to the S, triple type of 6 after the grade. The 666 Mafia jumping the weight on your ass like a million of days. You say, the J, the O, the I, and T. The infamous smoking these niggas like a fucking terrorist from third country. I need to bring down a pound and go low to CLMP. A buster could never fuck with me. Look the G, just living up cheap up on the ganja trees. They wish to approach the scarecrow in the smoke, but they can't face mentality. See the movie, Scarecrow, Gotti, Khalid, Montana, and Hawk.